Zap 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 Lightning. Zap Zap Lightning. Lightning.
Hello everybody, it's me, the LEGO Dude, and in today's video I'll be placing every LEGO Star Wars set released in the year 2000 from worst to best. This list will be including the buildable Technic characters, but will exclude the 4 minifigure packs which may get their own video in the near future. Getting things started off in 15th place, we have the 7190 Millennium Falcon, which released for $100 with 663 pieces on July 1st, 2000 and retired on February 28th, 2002. This set finds itself on the bottom of the list without much competition. Every other set that we saw released in 2000 is at least decent, while this one is just hilariously bad. The design for this set is incredibly blocky even when comparing it to other sets of the era, with the top part in particular being the most blatant example of this. The colors on this set as well have the classic early era LEGO Star Wars random colored pieces, however they're particularly visible here and don't go well with the gray color of the Falcon. The design for this set is so blocky and just bad that there's nothing else to say that's good about it. The minifigure selection and the play features such as the entrance plank that goes up or down are solid, however that's nowhere near enough to say what at the time was a $100 and right now would be a $180 set. Next up in 14th place we have the 8000 Pit Droid, which released for $20 with 223 pieces on January 1st, 2000 and retired on December 31st, 2001. This set has a half decent build, however the Technic builds from early era LEGO are some of those sets where you either like them or you don't like them, and I don't like it much. On top of the build being decent at best, the colors are completely inaccurate. The Pit Droid seen in Star Wars media at the time were red and tan, while this one is green and tan, which does not work well. Next up in 13th place we have the 8001 Battle Droid, which released for $30 with 363 pieces on January 1st, 2000 and retired on December 31st, 2001. From now on, unless I specify differently, each set released on January 1st, 2000 and retired on December 31st, 2001. This is a slightly better Technic build than the Pit Droid. It's generally accurate and has the correct colors, however it's one of those Technic builds I said earlier that you either like or dislike, and I don't like it much. Next up in 12th place we have the 7104 Desert Skiff, which released for $6 with 55 pieces. This set is what I would call perfectly average. The minifigure selection is perfectly fine with Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. The build for $6 is about what you would expect for the time with a nice degree of accuracy, however the small plank can barely hold a minifigure and it probably would have just been better off without the little stands on the bottom. In 11th place we have the 7124 Flash Speeder, which released for $10 with 106 pieces. This set is about as good as the last one with the advantage of a cleaner design. The green and gray colors go well and are clean, unlike the Desert Skiff, which was downgraded by the stand standing out. No pun intended. Moving on to 10th place we have the 7115 Gungan Patrol, which released for $10 with 77 pieces. This set doesn't have much, but for 2000 the molded Kadu mounts and Gungan heads were revolutionary, and the play feature to drop the Gungan bombs out of the Booma carriers is a quite fun thing to include. Next up in 9th place we have the 7144 Slave 1, which released for $20 with 166 pieces. For the time I would say this is an above average set. It has the random colors as usual for the time, however other than the tan on the wings it's not too bad. The build is kind of blocky, but it generally catches the shape of the Slave 1 well and is easy to use for play. In 8th place now we have the 7159 Star Wars Pod Racing Bucket, which released for $25 with 292 pieces. This set is basically just a downscaled version of the $90 Pod Racer set from 1999 with some pod racers added and switched out. For $25 it has a nice selection of downscaled pod racers and a finish line to race them past. The minifigure selection is fine, but the main draw here is the racing aspect for play. Uniquely, this set also comes in a bucket and seems to be the only set to ever do so for LEGO Star Wars. This bucket is one of the most unique colors you've ever seen in LEGO Star Wars, with a black glittery color which I think has only ever been on a couple other sets. In 7th place we have the 7134 A-Wing Fighter, which released for $15 with 125 pieces. It uses the old gray color like the rest of these sets and is blocky, however the build is extremely well put together and is recognizable instantly as a good A-Wing. It's not better than being around the middle of the list, but it definitely still is solid. Moving on to the first set I really have a lot to say about. In 6th place we have the 7180 B-Wing at Rebel Control Center, which released for $30 with 338 pieces. For $30 at the time, this set had a decent amount of material with a nice small side build that can fold in on itself. It also has a repair cart that has a crane at the front and a tool crate attached to the back. The minifigure selection is decent but nothing special. The actual B-Wing itself seems to be disliked, however I think for the year released it's really good. The gray and orange colors, even if they are inaccurate, look good here, and since most of these old LEGO sets have strange colors, as long as they aren't too far off it shouldn't be too much of a point of criticism to put against these. Getting back to the actual set now, it has a pilot seat attached by 2 Technic pieces and can fold or unfold the 2 S foils, which are more sturdy than you would expect for a single tiles worth of connections. The cockpit also rotates as the ship moves, which is an amazing play feature. Design-wise, it somehow manages to be great even though it looks extremely flimsy. When you combine all of these amazing things, it helps bring it up to where it is on the list. Breaking into the top 5 now, we have the 7155 Trade Federation AAT, which released for $20 with 158 pieces. This set suffers a lot from being blocky, with some random blue pieces as well sticking out from weird places, but for the time LEGO did well with the shaping and overall design. The large disc pieces on the front are printed very nicely and help a great deal with the detailing. These pieces have been used on LEGO Alien Saucers before, so it's cool to see them repurposed here, or I think this was maybe the first time they were used, but I can't really confirm that. The main turret can turn to a degree and move up on a hinge and is the accurate length. The AAT has 2 hatches which are easily accessible to fit 2 droids into. It's a phenomenal set all around with great play and display value, and would have been especially exciting to have with the Phantom Menace where it first appeared, releasing just the year before. In 4th place we have the 8002 Destroyer droid, which released for $50 with 558 pieces. This was by far the best of the 3 Technic builds from 2000. The design is a bit funny looking, but is still overall good, but the main reason it's high on the list is because it has an incredibly effective, smooth, and fun ability to roll up and roll out. It rolls up and goes back to standard mode incredibly easily. Rolling it up simply requires some folding of parts, and by far the most fun part is that it automatically goes back to standard mode when you roll it so that it hits the red button on top. This is one of the greatest play features by far that I've ever seen on a LEGO set. Just this play feature alone is enough to put this in the top 5. Moving on to the podium now, in 3rd place we have the 7191 UCS X-Wing Fighter, which released for $150 with 1,300 pieces on July 1st, 2000 and retired on February 28th, 2002. Although the color scheme is quite random in some places, the set is surprisingly not blocky whatsoever. If I didn't already know what year it was released, I would have guessed it was from the late 2000s, not from 2000 exactly. The design is solid all around and is definitely a cut above most of the rest of the sets from 2000. It has the advantage of being one of the first UCS sets in LEGO Star Wars with a lot more pieces to give it a much better design. In 2nd place now we have a quite surprising set with the 7181 TIE Interceptor, which released for $100 with 703 pieces on June 1st, 2000 and retired on December 31st, 2002. This has the old school blue color that used to be on these TIE ship sets, and I personally think that it looked fine. Technically, having these blue colors added to the TIE sets is more accurate than the TIE fighters we get these days where it's completely gray, however we're not here to talk about that right now. The design isn't blocky at all and is mostly just a cut above the rest of the 2000 sets like the X-Wing. It again has the advantage of a ton of pieces to use to make a much better design because it's a UCS set. This set seems to be kind of disliked as well, however personally I like it and would put it high up on the list. Maybe I did put it a little too high, and after I make this video I'll probably think about putting it a few places lower, but for now this is good. Just to clarify before we move on, this list is not taking price into account too much. If I took price into account at the release date, then I'd have to rearrange the list a great deal regardless of how amazing some of the designs for these builds are. Moving on to the best set of 2000 now, we have the 7184 Trade Federation MTT, which released for $50 with 470 pieces on May 1st, 2000 and retired on December 31st, 2001. Although it has some random coloring, the design is surprisingly good with only some squared off parts looking weird, especially the back portion. But for the time, this is an awesome set. The best part here though is the selection of play features. First up, you can open up the front hatch and pull out a rack of battle droids. You can also open up the sides on the front half to access an interior. The back half can also be detached by removing one piece on top and can be split open to serve as a mobile base with a ton of interior space, which is great for play. Overall, this is an amazing set with a good sized crew of 7 droids and several phenomenal play features, which in my opinion makes it top the list as the best LEGO Star Wars set of the year 2000. Alright everyone, that is everything for today's video. Tell me your thoughts on these sets in the comment section down below. Which parts of the list do you agree with? Which parts do you disagree with? What order would your list be in? And one last thing before you leave, please remember to hit the subscribe button, ring the notifications bell, and leave a like on the video. Bye!